Happy New Year 2016 to all of my YouTube subscribers and viewers. We've got a lot of really great stuff coming up this year. And as usual with these update videos, I'm going to talk about what happened in the month before, that is December 2015, and what we've got coming up in the month ahead, January 2016, or the month we're in. And since it's the end of the year, or in the beginning of a new year, I think I might do a little bit more retrospective about 2015 and a little bit more about 2016. Before that, though, I always like to do a little preview of three big things that are coming up in this month. So this month, what we've got are some really exciting talks. The first of them is a workshop that I'll be giving at the Hudson Business Lounge in downtown Milwaukee, the place where I do some of my work. And it's part of our Ideas in Action series. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that when we get to the January portion. I will just say this, it has to do with New Year's resolutions and Stoicism. The second big thing that we've got is our first library talk here in our new place in Wisconsin. We've partnered with a number of different area libraries. I'll talk more about that in a moment. But specifically with the Brookfield Public Library, I'm going to be doing a year-long series like the ones I did in Kingston. And this time it's going to be about worlds of science fiction and fantasy and the philosophical themes that can be found in them. So that talk, the first talk in that series, is coming up this month. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was actually a development having to do with the half-hour Hagel series. So we are going to hit an important milestone during the month of January, towards the end of the month. And that is, we are going to be finished with the second main section, self-consciousness. All the videos for that will be done by the end of the month if I remain on schedule. And we'll be going into the next big section, which is reason, which is a pretty sizable portion of the book. You can see, here's that section itself. Reason comes before the next section, spirit, which comes before religion, which comes before absolute knowing, and at that time we're at the end of the work. So we're actually making some really great progress through the work, and I'm really excited to be going into a whole new dialectic with that. So let's talk now about the month of December and a little bit about the year 2015 itself. December, we didn't do a lot of events. Everything we did was online. I did a hangout with Tom Richie, somebody who I like to partner with, who does AP history prep. Really interesting guy from the Carolinas. And we talked a bit about Enlightenment and modern philosophy and technology and all that sort of stuff. You can see that on his site because it was a hangout on air. I also did another one of my monthly public half-hour Hegel Q&A hangouts, and we had some good talks about that. I actually have some interesting ideas that will show up in the half-hour Hegel blog, hopefully later this month from that. The main thing that I did during the month of December, which took a lot of my time, was finished up with the Epictetus Discourses class that I was teaching for the Global Center for Advanced Studies. It was a 4-week online class. We had about 100 people, maybe a little bit more than that, sign up. About a good 20 people coming to the weekly video conferences, asking some great questions. Some interesting student work has come out of it, including a blog that got started by one of my students. I'll put a link to that. Really interesting stuff about applying Stoicism to the service industry. I really enjoyed the class a lot. I didn't get to as much of the material generation as I would have liked, but I did manage to shoot about close to 50 videos for the class, so that's a lot. And I created a number of handouts and a number of lesson pages and conducted forums and all that. So that was a big event. And video work, I already mentioned that we had the Epictetus core concept videos. You probably saw quite a few of those in the month. I only shot 4 half-hour Hegel videos, in part because once I got towards the holiday part of the month, I started to think, well, I should probably take some sort of break, and I did more than I have in other years. And I had that one unboxing video that people seem to like as well with the Billy bookshelves. So that was the video work that I did. I did a bit of blogging, not as much as I'd intended or hoped to do, but some writing. I did a bit of academic writing as well. Some of it was going back and looking at older stuff that I'd written and fixing it up a bit, mostly having to do with coding, going from old programs like WordPerfect to the modern versions of Word where the codes are all different. And we did a lot of reorganization and rethinking things. For example, I cleaned up my desktop on my laptop, which took a surprisingly long time because there were so many files that needed to go places. Just things along those lines, unpacking books, putting things in their proper places, getting things onto the hard drive where they belong, backing up files, all that sort of end-of-year stuff. And to bring it to a close about that, 2015 was a pretty good year overall. We had a lot of growth in the YouTube channels, did quite a few interesting talks. I actually tallied up the number of public appearances that I put in, and it was something like, it was in the 20s. So a lot of great discussions coming out of that. I generated a ton of content that I'm eventually going to be repurposing, and we made some really important connections. Let's talk now about what we've got coming up in this year 2016. It's a lot of stuff, so I'm not going to try to pack it all into this video, but I will tell you about what we've got happening in January, and then I'll give you a few hints about what's on the horizon. This is going to be a pretty important year for us at Reason.io. So, like I said, I've got several events coming up that I mentioned in the big three things. January 13th, we have the first of the Ideas in Action workshops. This is something a little bit different than I've done in the past. At previous lectures or discussions or workshops, I've made it just open. Whoever wants to come can just show up. With this, you actually need a ticket, in part because we're confining it to 12 participants. We already have 2 of the tickets spoken for because people already signed up for them the day that I posted it. You'll see the link down below in the description. If you're in the Milwaukee area and you want to come to this workshop, you need to get yourself a ticket so that we know that we're saving a space for you. This one is using Stoic philosophy to keep New Year's resolutions. So each month I'm going to be doing one of these workshops, a very hands-on, fairly intensive workshop, where I'm going to be doing a bit of teaching about key ideas in Stoic practical philosophy or Aristotelian practical philosophy, and then we're going to be doing application. People are going to be getting worksheets that they're going to fill out. We're going to actually workshop them, which means having discussion. What's your resolution? Is it a reasonable one? Do you think you need to revise it? How would a Stoic look at that? That's the sort of thing that we're going to be doing. Next month, by the way, for the theme of Valentine's Day, we're going to turn to Aristotle and talk about Aristotle's famous distinction between 3 different kinds of friendship and how that might play into romantic relationships or other relationships. So a lot of those coming up. This one is January 13th at the Hudson Business Lounge. The second event that we've got coming up is the next day, January 14th, and it is at the Brookfield Public Library, like I said before. It's the first of a 12-lecture series that I'll be doing on worlds of fantasy and science fiction and on the philosophical themes in them. So, who can you expect to see coming up? Well, think about Isaac Asimov's Foundation series and the world that he creates and what's going on philosophically in that. It really represents an Enlightenment kind of attitude towards things. Or C.S. Lewis's Space Trilogy. We're not going to do Narnia, but we will do these very, very interesting works. Tolkien we'll talk about. We're going to talk about Frank Herbert's Dune. We're going to talk about Mervyn Peake's Gormenghast trilogy. We'll talk about some Ursula K. Le Guin. There's a lot of people who we're going to cover. The very first one is a bit more general because it's going to be an introduction to this lengthy series that I'm doing. And I'll be video recording those so people can, if they can't make it to Brookfield, which obviously is only the case for, a small amount of my viewership, they can watch them later, comment on them. I may even create a website for this. The other thing that we've got coming up is on January 20th, and this is the public half-hour Hagel Q&A series, and one of the things that I committed to when I began crowdfunding the half-hour Hagel project on Patreon was that after I reached a certain level of support from my patrons, I would offer something to the general public. So what I do is offer these Google Hangouts. If you're interested in it, all you need to do is stay tuned to my Google Plus or Facebook the day of the Hangout, because I will post the link there, and then you just jump in and you can participate. Any questions that you've got about Hagel, bring them to me, and I will do my best to field them. Those are the events so far scheduled for January. We might have other things coming up depending on if I get further bookings. Video work. We've got a lot of video stuff coming up this month. Half-hour Hagel, I'm going to do 6 videos. Like I said, that will take us to the end of the section Self-Consciousness and into the new section Reason. By the way, I should mention, if you're interested in becoming a patron, you get perks by doing so, including entry to a special Patreon exclusive Q&A session that I hold monthly, but all sorts of other cool stuff as well. If you're interested in supporting a great digital project, consider becoming a patron as something to do for the new year. I'm also doing a video about the shooting process. People have been asking, what is it like for you to produce these YouTube videos? So the half-hour Hagel ones are the ones that require the most work out of all the videos that I do. And what I've done so far is shot a bit of the process that goes into them. For each half-hour installment, we're talking about 4 to 5 hours worth of actual work on my part. And so you'll see something about that coming out later this month. I've got a lot more Epictetus core concept videos coming out this month and probably the next month, because I've got so many of them that I created for the course. The events, of course, I'm going to try to record. If I have the time, and that's a big if this month, I will try to shoot a current event video or a philosophy self-study video or a more personal video. But I can't promise anything this month. Later months, you'll start seeing those videos coming out. What else have we got going on? I've got a lot of other kinds of work on the docket for this month. So we've already had some meetings, and I've got more meetings coming up. A lot of conversations, some of them with local people, some of them with other people and institutions out of the area. I'm developing curriculum for priority thinking, which I've joined as a team member, an organization I'm very proud to be a part of. I'm working also on a webinar, a free webinar, and a course that I'm going to bring out, not this month, but in later months, but I'm doing a lot of the back-end work for it right now. And what this is about is how to become a knowledge source on YouTube, how to generate a channel that people would turn to and say, oh yeah, this is great stuff. And so it's designed for people in academia who want to start incorporating video work into their portfolio, people who want to go off on their own and take the knowledge that they have and create a YouTube following, people who are interested in that sort of stuff, and perhaps even the lifelong learners who've exhibited some sort of interest in creating their own content many of whom really know quite a lot and have been spending a lot of time studying important classic texts. So why am I doing that? In part because it's something that people have been coming to me for the last year and a half and asking me to help them out with, because I've been doing it. This whole channel is that. So teach what you know. This is something I'm going to start teaching. And it's going to be the first of a number of different courses and webinars that we're going to start offering through Reason.io. For the webinar, we're going to be partnering with Scholarpreneur, Scott Rank, somebody who I greatly respect and who's making some really interesting inroads as an academic who does his work in a very public and practical way. He does it with history and also with teaching academics how to do stuff outside of the academy. I do it with philosophy, but we're really aligned on the same plane when it comes to what's going to happen with education. So that is part of what I'm going to be spending a lot of time on later this month. I'm also going to be this year, probably not coming out this month, but I'm going to be starting to work on it. I'm going to be doing podcasts, and I'm going to start with taking the videos that I have and turning them into podcasts. People have been asking me for several years now, could you make these into podcasts? Because I listen to these while I'm on my way to work or doing gardening or doing other things. So I'm going to start doing that. This is something new for me. I've created a few podcasts and posted them in archive.org of talks that I gave here and there where I didn't have video footage. But to actually go through and take the movie files and then turn them into sound files and perhaps even take out portions where nothing interesting is happening or fix the sound somehow. That's a bit of a learning curve for me. So that'll happen in 2016. I'm not quite sure exactly when, but we're beginning the work for it here in January. I'm going to be doing more blogging, and so you can stay tuned for that. I've got a piece coming out in Stoicism Today, and hopefully I'll do some blogging as well for the Partially Examined Life. I've also got my own blogs, so it's going to be kind of spread out, but I do want to get more writing done. I've got some other writing projects. Some of them are strictly academic, the sort of stuff you've been hearing me talk about in these update videos for years, taking conference papers and turning them into articles, making good on promises I made to write this or that, working on my book projects. And some of them are more popularly oriented, which will probably culminate in self-published ebooks coming out this year. That's something that I do want to get into. I think there's a great demand for very inexpensive ebooks about philosophy that might actually incorporate some of the video resources and other things that I've been creating over the years. So the last thing I'll talk about as far as 2016 and specifically January goes is the newsletter. I started creating a newsletter for my local library, the people who would attend the events month after month after month, so I could keep them updated about what was going on in the Hudson Valley. And since we moved here to Milwaukee, I haven't put out any new newsletters. I want to start putting out newsletters, either 2 or 3 times a month, probably somewhat themed, so maybe some of them will focus more on what's going on with the video projects, and some will focus more on what's going on with, local talks and workshops, and some will focus more on other stuff, or I haven't quite sorted it out exactly yet. But if you're interested in being on our mailing list so that you find out what's going on, through Reason.io, which is most of my activities, you can sign up for it. I'm including the link here, and I will, start putting those out fairly early this month, because I do want to publicize the events that we have here in Milwaukee. So if you're interested at all in being on our mailing list, go ahead and join up, and I will keep you updated about courses and videos and workshops and talks and other opportunities that we have here. So that's the end of this fairly long update video. I wish you a very prosperous and a happy New Year 2016. Good time now to start laying all the groundwork for whatever it is that you want to do during this coming year. And like I said, if you're in the Milwaukee area, come to our events.